Okay, what's going on, guys? Sean Don coming back with another technical analysis here. We have Garrett Stokes. Done a few technical analysis on him, over the years, I suppose. He sent me in a few different videos, 2018, 16 in a weight throw, and kind of took a look at all four of them, trying to figure out what is up in general with this technique. Obviously, there's little things in each video, but trying to kind of distill it down and find the common problems. And good news is, Garrett, your throw looks pretty similar across all of the events. Now, there's things that I want you to, in my opinion, I would like you to change to kind of take that next step, right? But yeah, so either way, we're going to get into it. But before we do that, just a reminder, if you guys are interested in any coaching, online coaching from me, go to my website, gripandrip.co, and sign up. In-depth technical analysis videos just like this, throws programming, lifting programming, all that stuff. Check out merch and get a shirt and a hat. Some, I don't know, whatever makes your dreams come true. All right, so let's get into the video, take a look at it. This is the 20-pound hammer, I believe, Garrett. And like I said, I think this is the least complete of all the throws that you sent me. But it's really not that bad. Like the orbit, so this is one thing that I want to kind of talk about as a whole across all of your videos that you sent me. Your orbit is consistent in the sense that it's kind of making the same shape every single turn, but I just don't think it's the most ideal kind of orbit, I guess, where you can see your high point's kind of off to the left sector, low point is kind of out in front of the left foot a little bit, and you can see you kind of have the tendency to travel down the left sector line, and the orbit gets a little bit shorter on the left side instead of staying stable, which I can go through and elaborate in a second here. So let's start breaking it down frame by frame. I think kind of the biggest thing that you need to work on is your winds and entry and building tension and stuff like that. So that'll help affect the orbit later in the throw, where right now I think you're setting it up and there's just not a ton of tension in the entry, and that's why you have the tendency to shift back and kind of pull the left side a little bit. So first wind looks fine, you're facing the right, stepping up, and so this is kind of what I want you to focus on a little bit. So you need to get a little bit more tension in the entry. You need to get a little bit more separation between the hips and the shoulders, create some tension in the body to be able to transfer it into the hammer. And as you can see right here, as you go to step up, you can see your shoulders are pretty much, they're not quite facing zero, but in my mind, I'd like to see you facing the right side a little bit more. So facing 270 more with your shoulders. You want to keep the ball path more or less the same. I just want to see your shoulders facing more to the right. And then especially as ball goes behind you, and I think this is where I can start to see a little bit of that tension, or you're losing a little bit of that tension, is right through here. Because you can see your body's moving a whole lot, but the ball is not moving a whole lot. So you got to kind of move in conjunction with the hammer. So kind of let the ball come forward through zero. Then as soon as the ball starts coming forward through zero, let it go. Take its natural path long back behind you. Feel some tension back towards 90, back towards 180 specifically. But as soon as the ball comes through zero, turn those shoulders back. And what you do, it's just like a little bit late. And then you can start to see the ball drop around here. And I know this is a 20-pound hammer, so it's not going to be perfect. Your 16 was actually looking pretty solid. But like I said, I want to, if you can improve your stuff with a 20-pound, everything else should get better too. So you can see the ball start to drop a little bit here. That means it's going to lose a little bit of that tension. Your left elbow kind of comes high. You're facing the right well here, but it's just isn't. There's not much tension in this system. Like I said, mainly looking at the ball and how it kind of drops. And then with that left elbow and shoulder kind of coming high, that's going to kind of create some tension in the body in kind of the wrong way, where like you're probably not going to feel it with the hips as much. You're going to feel it more up in the shoulder. You want to feel it in the hips, in the torso. And then you can see as you come through an entry, you also do this thing where you kind of really sit down a lot in the entry. And, I'm not going to say you need to change it, but I think that kind of contributes a little bit to, actually, no, I kind of like it, but it's more so just the position of the ball and the shoulders and stuff like that, where you can see the hands are really low down to the ground, kind of almost below your hips. And it's technically a flat entry, but it just looks kind of funky. So as you're coming through off the second wind, start working those hips. Make sure those hands are out away from the body. You can see this right elbow is really down. You want to keep the right side kind of behind the ball. So people talk about pushing, and my idea of pushing is kind of keeping your right side behind the ball in, I guess, off the second line through the entry. So as you can see, this right elbow is down below. Like if you were thinking about throwing a punch, and your elbow was down, you'd mess your shoulder, wrist, hand up, whatever. And I kind of want to think about the same thing in the entry as well. You want to stay behind it. If you're throwing a good punch, your elbow is directly behind your hand. Right here, you can see it's kind of down. Like I said, if this right side's pulling down, it creates some tension. It's going to also create more tension with the left side. So you're just not quite connecting the hips as well as I think you could, and letting the ball kind of sling in the entry quite as well as you could. And like I said, so you, especially as you come through here and ball goes through zero, you can see you're sitting back, you're settling back, you're pretty patient. And I like the left shoulder down, hips, all this stuff is good. It's just the ball's a little bit behind you. You can see you're not quite connected with the hammer yet until about there when that right arm gets straight. So you got to kind of think about kind of reaching out more to 270 off this second wind with this right arm. That'll give you more pressure. Like I said, you want to stay behind it with the right side. That'll give you more tension. You'll connect earlier, and then it'll be easier to connect the hips and stuff because as you can see, left side's relatively stable. You do shift back a little bit. If you look at this left side, you see it shift back a little bit before the ball goes through zero. And this is kind of why, like I said, your orbit has more of a tilt towards kind of the left sector in terms of the low point and the high point. Low point is just kind of through here on entry, and this left hip kind of comes back a lot. You can see left hip shifting back, and right side not quite turning with it too well, especially if you look at this right leg, left foot, left side, everything's kind of with the ball, but this right side's back behind, and that means you're not quite being as efficient as you could be. Ball goes left, and like I said, as the video goes on, like I said, the orbit kind of shifts or gets shorter around the left side because you are pulling back and shifting back and going down the left sector. So ball's out of frame right now, but as the throw goes on, I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about. Really far back away from the hammer, not a bad thing, but just left leg's really straight. And you can see, oh, this is a crazy position. Your right foot's pointed back towards zero, and your left foot's pointed out towards 180. That's interesting. Don't think I've ever seen that. But once ball goes around, you can see, and you're kind of missing a little bit of direction here. You can start to see the hips kind of get pulled around the left side a little bit, like this. Okay. Means you're not quite connected. Like I say, you just don't quite have enough tension and direction in the entry. Single support is okay. You step, you're quick, catch early. Okay. This isn't bad. Turning with the ball. And you can start to see the lower body get a little bit ahead of it, but pretty solid. And then so your left heel grounds kind of early, not a big problem at all. But then the thing is, your left side will start to shift back. So I'm going to keep my mouse right here, and then see, it's very subtle. Okay, very subtle, but you see this little shift back. And you got to kind of be a little bit more stable until the ball gets through zero. Okay, and then you can start to see your low point is just after zero. Hips aren't quite connected. Left side's pulling back, and then you're going to start to see the orbit shorten a little bit. Where like now you can see the ball's just outside of the frame instead of further outside of it. And so you see this left side come back. Your hips are getting up into it. Catch. Not bad. Once again, going through double support. And then same sort of thing, you're going to see this left side shift back. Okay. And as we go through double support here, now you see balls in frame. Okay, and then we're really going to compare this to the next throw, or the next turn as well. Hips are getting up into it though, so I'm going to leave my mouse here, and then next catch. You can start to see the ball gets a little bit up on you. Hips aren't quite connected to it, quite like it needs to be. But going through double support, left heel ground super early again, you're down the legs, relatively speaking. But then you're going to see, okay, so where my mouse was, or still is, compared to where the ball is now, it's getting shorter on the left side. So you want to keep the path of the ball around the left side more or less the same as the ball goes around the left. So where I'm kind of drawing this line with my mouse, I guess if you had a more zoomed out video, you'd be able to tell a little bit better, but you want it to be more or less the same distance around the left. And you can start to see here, when this left heel does ground, the left side shifts back even more as the throw goes on. So like your system's kind of set, like I said, so your orbit is consistent turn to turn, but it's just kind of has the wrong direction where it's like I said, it's kind of going down the left sector line instead of going to 180. So left side pulling back, left leg getting really straight. You can really see the tension up on the left side. And then your right side catches up pretty well, but it's just like an object in motion stays in motion. So you kind of set it up, pull that left side a little bit back, and don't quite have the tension in entry, and it just kind of gets more dramatic as the throw goes on. And then you come through on the finish. You see left side pulling back big time again. So yeah, pulling off a little bit. Ball goes down the middle though. So yeah. So run through it one more time really quick. Once again, working on the winds and entry, turning back more, trying to keep more tension as the ball goes behind you from 90 through 180, and then also getting a little bit more separation with the hips and shoulders and working the ball a little bit more in as the ball goes from 180 through 270, and then letting it sling. Like I said, reaching out more to the right, and then keeping the ball long out left instead of kind of, you can see, like I said, just this entry right here through 0, you can see there's just a little bit of tension that you're creating with the body rather than letting the ball go. So, and then like I said, your turns, like I said, are set as the throw goes on. It's just you're setting it up with a little bit of artificial tension, and then yeah, just pulling that left side back. So yeah, not bad. And like I said, this is kind of the same thing for all your throws. Your weight throw specifically that you sent looked good through about 3 turns, and then just kind of lost some tension, and the hips weren't quite connected, and that's why you kind of you can see your momentum get killed in that last turn in that weight video. So got to connect the hips a little bit more and try to get the tension out of the shoulders and more into the torso and into the body and into the hips and stuff like that. And part of that is letting the ball do what it needs to do, keeping it in its orbit instead of pulling it out of its orbit, because that's kind of what happens here is every time ball goes through 0, you're pulling the ball out of it or out of its orbit and shortening it as it goes around the left. So yeah, that's kind of it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions, Garrett. If anybody else out there, like I said, would like a technical analysis or any other online coaching, go to my website, gripandrip.co. All right. Thank you for watching. Until next time, Sean Don, signing off.